I let my son's friend stay with us after his parents kicked him out, and that decision saved my life. I, 45M, never expected that opening my home to my son's friend would end up being the decision that saved my life. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Looking back now, 6 months later, I realize how many small moments led to that crucial night. It started on a cold March evening when my son came home from school with his best friend, looking more worried than I'd ever seen him. They'd been inseparable since middle school, the kind of friendship where they finished each other's sentences and spent every weekend gaming in our basement. I'd always thought of his friend as a second son, especially after my wife passed away 2 years ago. The kid was practically living at our house anyway. So when he stood in our living room that evening, trying to hold back tears while clutching a duffel bag that contained everything he owned, I already knew what my answer would be. My son explained the situation, his voice shaking with a mix of anger and concern. His friend's parents had kicked him out after he came out to them during dinner. Apparently, it hadn't gone well. There was yelling, threats about fixing him, and finally an ultimatum: either choose to be normal or get out. The kid chose dignity over pretense, packed what he could while his parents were still shouting, and walked out. My son had found him sitting on a bench near their school, scrolling through his phone, trying to figure out where to go. The boy couldn't even look me in the eye as my son told me the story. He kept staring at our worn living room carpet, shoulders hunched like he was trying to make himself smaller. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I can sleep on the couch, sir, just until I figure something out." I didn't need to think twice. I told him he could stay in our spare room as long as he needed. The relief on both their faces made my heart ache. No kid should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep. The first few weeks were an adjustment period for all of us. Since losing my wife to cancer 2 years ago, it had just been me and my son in the house. We'd fallen into our own routine: quiet dinners, weekend movie marathons, and a lot of takeout, because neither of us had inherited my wife's cooking skills. Having another person around changed the dynamic, but it was a good change. The kid was respectful, helped with chores without being asked, and I could see how much happier my son was having his best friend around. He insisted on contributing somehow, so he started cooking dinner on the nights I worked late. Turned out he'd learned from his grandmother before she passed, and suddenly our kitchen smelled like home again. He'd leave plates in the microwave for me, with little notes about reheating instructions. Sometimes I'd come home to find both boys asleep on the couch, textbooks open on their laps, clearly having waited up for me despite my telling them not to. What I didn't know then was that this teenager's presence in our home would end up saving my life just 6 weeks later. I own a small construction company, which often means working late to finish paperwork after the crews have gone home. That particular night in May, I'd stayed later than usual, trying to finish some urgent bid proposals. By the time I pulled into our driveway, it was almost 1 a.m. I remember feeling tired but satisfied. We'd likely secured a big contract that would keep my crews busy through the summer. That's when I felt it, a sharp pain in my chest that made me grip the steering wheel harder. At first, I thought it was just heartburn from the greasy takeout I'd eaten earlier. I managed to get inside, but the pain kept getting worse, spreading across my chest like someone was sitting on it. I tried to make it to the kitchen for some water, thinking I could walk it off. That's when my legs gave out. I remember hitting the floor hard, the cool tile pressed against my cheek as I tried to catch my breath, but it felt like trying to breathe through a straw. My vision started to blur, and that's when real fear set in. My phone was still in my truck. I'd forgotten it there while gathering my paperwork. That's when I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. My son's friend had always been a light sleeper, a habit he developed from years of tensing at every sound in his parents' house, waiting for the next argument to start. The sound of me falling had woken him up. He found me on the kitchen floor, immediately recognized the signs of a heart attack, and sprang into action with a composure that still amazes me. While he called 911, he helped me into a sitting position and got me aspirin from the bathroom cabinet. He stayed calm the entire time, talking to me, making sure I stayed conscious. He kept saying things like, "Stay with me, we still need to beat that racing game," and "My cooking isn't that bad, is it?" trying to keep me focused with humor while we waited for the ambulance. My son, who could sleep through a tornado, had no idea what was happening just downstairs. The paramedics arrived within minutes, though it felt like hours. They later told me that those quick actions, calling immediately and giving me aspirin, likely prevented severe damage to my heart. If I'd been alone, if the kid hadn't been such a light sleeper, if he hadn't known what to look for, I might not be here writing this. The next few days in the hospital were a blur of tests, medications, and worried faces. My son was terrified. He'd already lost one parent, and the thought of losing another had him barely leaving my side. His friend organized everything at home, called my sister to help with the company temporarily, and even contacted my son's teachers to explain the situation and get extensions on their assignments. Recovery wasn't easy, but having two teenagers fussing over me actually made it bearable. They took turns bringing me food, making sure I took my medication, and even driving me to cardiac rehab when I was cleared to start. My son's friend was particularly vigilant, always checking on me before going to bed and first thing in the morning. He downloaded several health monitoring apps and insisted on teaching both me and my son how to use them. The real twist in our story came 2 weeks ago, nearly 4 months after the heart attack. The kid's parents showed up at our door, unannounced. They'd had time to think and wanted him to come home. They'd heard about what happened with my heart attack through mutual friends, and I guess it made them realize some things aren't worth losing your child over. The mother had been crying, you could tell, and the father looked older somehow, more subdued than I remembered. The thing is, the kid didn't want to leave. He looked at me, then at my son, and told his parents he was happy where he was. He said he'd forgive them, but he needed more time. He needed to see real change, not just words prompted by guilt or social pressure. They didn't take it well at first. His father started to raise his voice, but stopped when he saw his son stand straighter instead of shrinking away. Seeing how their son had grown, how he literally saved a life, seemed to give them pause. Now we're working on a compromise that everyone can live with. The kid stays with us during the week for school, and he spends weekends with his parents, slowly rebuilding their relationship. His parents are attending PFLAG meetings, which wasn't part of our agreement, but something they chose to do on their own. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Last night, I overheard them and my son talking in the kitchen while they were making dinner. My son was thanking him again for saving my life, and his friend said something that hit me hard. "You guys saved me first. Before that night, I didn't know what family was supposed to feel like." I'm not writing this for advice or validation. I just wanted to share how sometimes the people we help end up helping us in ways we never could have imagined. My doctor says if I hadn't gotten help so quickly that night, things could have gone very differently. Instead, I'm here, healthy, with an extended family I never expected to have. To any parents out there struggling to accept their kids, life is too short. You never know when they might need you or when they might need you. Don't let pride or prejudice cost you the chance to know the amazing people your children are becoming. And to anyone who's been kicked out or is afraid of being kicked out, it gets better. There are people who will love you for exactly who you are.
Thank you for all the kind messages and awards. To those asking about a GoFundMe for the kids' college fund, that's already taken care of. The money I'm saving on medical bills is going straight into an account for his future. Both boys are heading to State University next fall. They both got in, and there was never any question about them going to different schools. Edit 2. Yes, his parents know about the college fund. It was actually what finally got through to them about how serious we are about being his second family. They've started matching my contributions, which wasn't something I expected, but shows how far we've all come. Edit 3. For those asking about my wife, yes, I think she would be proud. She always said our home had too many empty rooms. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one.